Ah yes, Tumblr Sexyman. In case you have no idea what a Tumblr Sexyman is, according to Urban Dictionary, a Tumblr Sexyman is a male character who goes viral on Tumblr for perceived attractiveness based on an established formula. Usually white, tall, dressed fancy, and is evil or has a dark side, though the character can be non-human and anthropified to fit the set formula. Most of the time, said character isn't really as attractive as Tumblr makes him out to be. There are also sexy women who are usually angsty villains or unique characters, most of them described as girl bosses. I made a poll last week with the different topics for future videos and the Tumblr Iceberg and reality shifting tide. I decided to go for the Tumblr Iceberg first, but when I went to look for it, I actually found that Reddit user Silent Chatter had just posted this. So I decided to go for this one first, and I can make a video on the Tumblr one later on. Especially because I think I'm going to make my own Tumblr Iceberg chart because the one that's already made is lacking. Doesn't even have my favorite post ever, my 3-week smoking girlfriends. So I think I'm just going to make my own. I decided to split this video into 4 parts just because there's so many characters. Each part is going to cover 2 tiers, but I think this first one is going to be shorter than the others because the first 2 tiers are way shorter than like the next 6 tiers. So you have 4 videos of sexy people to expect. If you don't know what an iceberg chart is, they are charts usually with an image of an iceberg captioned humorously so as to convey that the tip of the iceberg is the summation of the knowledge of most people, while the much larger submerged part of the iceberg is the sum of all knowledge of a particular topic. In this particular instance, the creator has said that this iceberg is based on how well known the character is seen as sexy or sexified by fans, not by how popular the character itself is. Also, a few disclaimers. I don't think all of these are sexy men, I'm just following the chart. I don't understand why some of them are in the list, to be honest. There may be some major spoilers, so if you see a character from something you're planning on consuming and don't want spoilers, just be safe and skip ahead. Oh yeah, a lot of the characters you will see in this list are canonly minors. I'm not comfy with the sexification of minors, so I'm just here to document the phenomenon. I don't encourage it. Before I start, I want to mention that sexy people are classified in the wikis as, quote, not all sexy people are on the same level. The terms are stolen from the SCP Foundation wiki, and I'll tell you about them right now so you know what I'm referring to when I mention their class. Of course, some characters aren't on the wiki, so I won't be able to tell you their class, but I found that helpful to understand how they were viewed or perceived by the people who made it. Well, I don't know if this is 100% true, but I think most people who made each page on the Sexypedia are like fans or just someone knowledgeable of each sexy person, so I trust their judgment for the most part. I will tell you when I don't agree with something because I know enough about the fandom or about said character to kind of like say like, I don't know if this is true. But for the most part, I think they're accurate. So these are the classes. Apollyon are once in a generation phenomena. Kata are those whose notoriety escapes beyond their fandom, usually through jokes. People know these even outside of their fandom. Euclid are unmistakable sexy people but are contained within their fandom, known to many inside the fandom but generally not outside. Safe are those that never quite reach widespread sexy person status in their fandom for whatever reason. Maybe their fan base is extremely small, or has a large volume of casual fans or fans with different tastes that drown out the ones making sexy person content, but are sexy people in their niche. Thaumiel could have been a sexy person, maybe having been preemptively joked about or called out as a sexy person, but were actively averted because of this knowledge. Like they're still sexified in places, but prevented from reaching their full potential extent. Neutralized are like sexy person in another timeline. They have all the trappings of a potential sexy person, but never quite became one for whatever reason, such as obscurity, a fan base with a different taste, or being paired off. This classification is trying to be phased out on the wiki though. All of these classifications are still being fine-tuned and might change in the future. Other than the classes, there's also a bunch of archetypes or tropes, but there's so many I suggest you look for them yourself on the wiki. So let's begin. The Onceler, Class Apollyon. The Onceler is the main protagonist/antagonist of the book The Lorax by Dr. Seuss. He's also the co-protagonist and central antagonist of the 2012 movie by the same name. Probably the most popular and infamous sexy man of all time, since the movie made him look like, and I quote, a twink in a suit. Sexy Man Wansler is especially the one in the movie, not the one in the books. In the movie, he's a tall, slim white boy with black bands and is voiced by Ed Helms. He stars as a regular guy with a business making weird clothes out of a fictional tree called the Trufula tree. Then there's a music sequence where he sings the song How Bad Can I Be, and his business explodes. So he becomes greedy and vain, now wearing a green suit that, and once again, I quote, enhances his slim twink-like figure. Probably the most unique aspect about this character is something the wiki calls fandom splinter and self-shipping, or Wanslerization. So basically, there wasn't really another character people could ship him with in the Lorax movie, and the fandom could have just not shipped him with someone, so they shipped him with himself, aka Wancest. Usually Wancest consists of How Bad Can I Be Wansler, also known as Onesie, with post How Bad Can I Be Wansler or the Griddler. Eventually, the fandom created many AU Wanslers for RP, or as blogs on Tumblr where you would find all kinds of Wansler versions like Fem Wansler or the Vampler. There's actually a full Wansler fandom wiki where you can see all the blogs and AUs created. I'll leave the link in the description. Some of the sexy man archetypes include capitalist, which is weird but okay, suit guy, and self-shipping. Sans, class Apollyon. Sans is a character from the video game Undertale. He's a skeleton and he's the only other skeleton aside from his brother Papyrus. He's described as too lazy to put up a fight during a normal run, befriends the player in a pacifist run, and is the final and one of the most difficult bosses in a no mercy run. Don't sue me, but I've never played Undertale. But apparently Sans has a different attitude in this battle than in the rest of the game, and is found to be incredibly powerful. The whole drama surrounding this boss battle is what made Sans a fan favorite. According to the wiki, there was a disproportionate horniness for practically every Undertale character, but since Sans was the fan favorite, the thirst for him was almost beyond comprehension. You really had to be there, and even I, who wasn't into the game, saw it. Even though Sans is one of the most popular sexy men, he doesn't really fit the description of the traditional Tumblr sexy man. Some of the sexy men archetypes on the wiki are non-human/skeleton, mysterious, and flanderization. Vriska, class Apollyon. Vriska Circuit is one of the main characters from the webcomic Homestuck and our first and most popular Tumblr sexy woman. Vriska is one of the 12 alpha trolls introduced in Act 5. Trolls are the most popular characters in Homestuck and they skyrocketed the popularity of the webcomic. If you know anything about Homestuck, you will know why I can't give you a concise description of Vriska's role in it. What I can tell you is that she was introduced as a blah 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 huge bitch, and that's her main characteristic, she's an evil bitch. Amongst the horrible things she did was bullying, abuse, murdering a lot, and being probably responsible for the main villain. Vriska's tragic backstory is probably why people like her. Partway through the comic, she dies and it's her ghost that goes through some sort of redemption arc. Then her death is reversed and so is the redemption arc because of time shenanigans. If you know, you know. There's also the whole Vriska did nothing wrong meme, but I really don't want to get into that. Among her sexy women archetypes, we have dominating, knife murder, and quotable catchphrases. Harlequin, class Catter. Probably the OG sexy woman, Dr. Caroline Frances Quinzel, aka Harlequin, is one of the main antagonists of the Batman animated series and now the whole franchise. She was first introduced as a villain in the original animated Batman series. Her popularity has grown so much she not only has appeared in the comics and become one of the main staples of their franchise, she now has her own HBO Max show, which you should watch if you haven't, it's great, and even started in the movie Birds of Prey. Harlequin originally appeared as kind of Joker's love interest, a psychologist interning in Arkham Asylum who took a particular interest in him. Joker manipulated her by creating a tragic backstory and eventually turned her mad, making her the villain we know today. Except nowadays, Harlequin and Joker's relationship is viewed as what it always has been, toxic, and instead we get to enjoy both in the comics and that HBO series I mentioned, her becoming some kind of independent anti-hero and her relationship with Poison Ivy. As for her status as a sexy woman, it says that she ran so Vriska could walk. Gotta say, Harlequin has some of the funniest archetypes, which includes Chaos Lord /Clown, Fuck the Joker, and Girl Boss. Poison Ivy. This next entry I couldn't find either on the Sexyman or the Sexywoman wiki, so I can't tell you the class or any tidbits on why she's in here. Dr. Pamela Lillian Eiley, or Poison Ivy, is also one of the most well-known Batman villains. She's a botanist and a biochemist who possesses a poisonous touch and has physical abilities and a supernatural control over plant life. She uses these powers mainly for eco-terrorism. Her plant toxins and mind-controlling pheromones are used for criminal activities, which are more often than not aimed at protecting endangered species and the environment from human activity, mainly corporations. Her iconic look is usually red hair and green skin, although she's sometimes depicted with normal skin, typically drawn barefoot and costumes adorned with leaves and vines. Like Harley Quinn, recently she's seen as less of a supervillain and more of an anti-heroine. She's also a main character on the HBO Max show, and yes, this speed paint you're seeing is a fan art of Harley and Ivy from that show. Unfortunately, as she's not on any of the sexypedias, I can't tell you about the archetypes, but it would probably include villain, WLW, and girl boss. Draco Malfoy, class catter. Draco Malfoy is a recurring character in the Harry Potter franchise. He's the son of Lucius Malfoy, a wealthy politician allied with the main antagonist, Lord Voldemort, and is a wizard sorted into Slytherin house. He's kind of a low-stake antagonist, more like a bully, and Harry Potter's rival. He's racist and elitist, an unlikable rich kid who gets humiliated at every turn. So why is he a sexy man? Well, for one, I think the fact that Tom Felton played him has a lot to do with it. He's also angsty, shippable with many characters that form interesting complexities such as Drarry or Hermione. Fun fact, did you know Drarry is the most popular Harry Potter ship on AO3? Like, you have Starwolf right there. And well, he's, and these are not my words, a pale British twink, depicted as a slim pale man with light blonde hair. There's a divide between canon and fandom Malfoy, but if the popularity of hashtag Draco talk on TikTok is anything to go by, people mostly stick to fandom, a true proto-sexy man. Among his archetypes we have John-locked, pale twink, and well-dressed. Arataka Rajan, class catter. Rajan is the deuteragonist of Mob Psycho 100, who sweats a lot and was sexified by the anime adaptation. He's the 20-year-old mentor to the protagonist Shigeo or Mob. He's a con artist, a fake psychic who does fake exorcism but uses Mob, who is a real psychic. He's described as a kind, well-meaning person though. He generally tries to help people, and that's how he ends up rounding up a whole team of psychic middle schoolers. Apparently in the manga, no one was really drawn sexy, but then Studio Bones got a hold of the anime adaptation, where he was portrayed very flamboyant. According to the wiki, he's animated really sexually, like you can tell the animators were horny and the fans caught on. Also, on multiple interviews with people in the team like character designer Yoshimichi Kameda, they showed the lengths they went to make him sexy and how they find him sexy as well. If you Google internet sex symbol, you will see lots of pictures of Rajan, as it is now a meme. Among the archetypes mentioned on the wiki, we have well-dressed, pale twink, and distinctive voice. Raymond, class catter. Raymond is a villager from the game Animal Crossing New Horizons. He's a cat with a smug personality, and in my humble opinion, his rise as a sexy man is probably a record in some way. He rose so fast, even before the game came out. Raymond is one of the villagers that can live in a player's town. When interacted with, he comes off as a fashionable hipster. Things associated with his smug personality include flirting with the player. He is a cat with glasses, bangs, a waistcoat, and heterochromia. Basically designed to be a sexy man in my opinion. I saw this coming the moment he was announced. Since you can give villagers clothing and they will put them on, an amount of people have dressed him up in a maid's dress. An amount of people that include me as a Raymond haver, but I give dresses to all my villagers because they just look so cute in them. Sorry. Other interesting things about Raymond are that his house is a small office, his catchphrase is crisp, his skill is rapping, and he wants to be a fashion designer. The thing that makes Raymond special as a sexy man is how truly bananas everyone went over him on the internet. Like, people were selling him on a trading site called Nukasan for an average price of 1,000,000 bells, the in-game currency. Yes, but you could also find him for real money on sites like eBay, for way too much money. There was like a whole Raymond black market. I think we can condense the Raymond craze with this DM someone on Twitter received. Hello, I have been following your tweets for the past 2 days and have come to the conclusion you do not deserve to have Raymond on your island. He is my comfort character, and seeing him in an environment not meant for him brings me anxiety. So I will be expecting a reply to this DM when you have him in boxes and ready to relinquish him to someone who would treasure him like he deserves. Unfortunately, I say that with sarcasm, nowadays he's more of a disgraced sexy man. Raymond is now regarded as a pest and an e-boy derogatory, and said to represent the fandom's greed and lust. Some of his archetypes include suit guy, white twink humanization, and gay. Spinel, class catter. Spinel is the main antagonist of Steven Universe the movie. She rose in population quickly thanks to her tragic backstory, incredibly catchy song, and rubber hose animation aesthetic. She is referred to as a modern Harlequin. I read some contrary opinions about her status as a sexy woman since most people say nobody's really attracted to her, but I'm sure some people are. Whether that's enough to classify her as a sexy woman, I don't know. Her archetypes include Friscaization, Retro, and Power of Love. Alastor, class catter. Alastor is one of the main characters from the web series Has Been Hotel. He says to have been specifically designed as bait for the sexy man fandom. Alastor is a powerful demon who is well known in hell and very intimidating to others. He was a radio host in life, then died in 1933 and went to hell. Hence why he has a transatlantic accent and radio static in his voice. He wears red and pinstripe suit, bow tie, and has sort of a microphone staff. He's a controversial character as the creator of the series has said he's Creole and used Haitian voodoo symbols, a close religious practice, in his demon magic. Despite this, he's white, which led people to believe he's whitewashed and an offensive depiction of two unrelated black ethnic groups. Alastor is the most popular character in Has Been Hotel despite controversies. He tends to be woobified probably due to his charismatic personality. Canonically and asexual, he's commonly shipped with Charlie or Angel Dust. The wiki makes it seem like it's not okay to ship him with other characters because he's ace, but ace people can be in relationships. The fandom has also created other versions of him like To Be Alastor, a blue version of him that is less happy and confident and more sad and horny. Some of his Sexyman archetypes include well-dressed suit guys, eldritch, and bait. Naito Komoera, class catter. Naito Komoera is a character from Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair. He appears to be a sickly pale man with baggy clothing. At first he seems easygoing and friendly, but soon the player learns that he's mentally unstable. He has unhealthy ideals of hope, despair, and challenge, which probably makes no sense if you haven't played a Danganronpa game ever. Komoera mentions that he's willing to be murdered if it fuels someone's hope. Unfortunately, nobody does. He also has a strong disdain for anything despair related and an admiration for talent. Komoera has a very scary fan base. Like, I know people who have received death threats for holding certain opinions about him, so I'ma leave it there. Among his archetypes are of course pale twink / white hair, I will cause problems on purpose, and gay. Monica, class catter. Monica is a character from the visual novel dating simulator Doki Doki Literature Club. Her surprise antagonist, reality-breaking powers, and awareness of existence as a video game character, as well as the psychological horror elements she brings to the game, are the core components of the game's popularity. She's introduced as a tutorial NPC giving you tips about how to play the game. After the end of Act 1, the game starts going wrong, and it becomes clear that Monica is doing something to it. The player starts noticing glitches and drastic changes on how the other members of the club behave. A lot of fans of the game are sympathetic towards her character as she's self-aware and always falls in love with the player, and well, as most of the sexy women before, she's technically the villain of the game. Her archetypes include fourth wall blurring, glitching, and twist villain. Professor Venomous, class catter. Professor Venomous is a minor antagonist from the Cartoon Network show OKKO Let's Be Heroes. His occupation apparently is to be a sexy bastard and an evil scientist. He used to live in a mansion lab with his adopted minion Fink, who is more of a child to him. He only has a few appearances in the show through its 3 seasons. Regardless, he's a fandom favorite. His Sexypedia article is by far the funniest I've seen, with pictures of him with little quotes underneath that say, "Example of prime husband material. He can gauge my eyes out anytime." And my favorite, DILF, 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 DILF. Among his archetypes we have DILF, of course, purple and capitalist, Lord Dominator, class Keter, ? Lord Dominator is the main antagonist of Wonder Over Yonder. She serves as the show's bigger bad, upstaging Lord Hater, the central antagonist. She's considered a sexy woman because despite being a worse villain than Lord Hater, everyone sims for her apparently. She's the former lead in the galactic villain leaderboard who takes pride in causing mayhem through the galaxy. Her battle armor gives her a masculine appearance. She's more of a calm, silent, getting posting for than looms over Wonder and his friends in her armor, but is actually an over-enthusiastic girl that loves to wreak chaos and destruction all over the galaxy. She frequently screams, laughs, and bounces around in excitement over a planet she recently obliterated. Her sexy women archetypes include girl boss, glowing neon, and riscalization. Undyne, class Keter. Undyne is her second character from the game Undertale. Initially appearing as the antagonist of the waterfall section of the game, the player can either befriend her in the pacifist or neutral route or face her in a particularly grueling challenge on the genocide run. Her genocide route and memorable character shot are what made her a popular sexy woman. She's a stoic figure in armor that relentlessly antagonizes the player while maintaining a cool, collected image until you fight her. That's when she dishes her helmet and is revealed to have a boisterous personality. Some of her archetypes are dominating, one-winged angel, and eye imagery. Vani, class Keter. Vani is the main antagonist in Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. She was first introduced in FNAF VR by only a voice and a mask. Vani is one of those characters that's like, we don't know anything really concrete about this character, but we're not letting that stop us. And by that I mean she got sexified, of course. As of the making of this video, Security Breach has not come out, set to come out late 2021. So there's not a lot of info about her. Anything about her is basically just speculation and fandom shenanigans. Her archetypes include twisting freaking psychopath, animal theming, and purple. Kokishi Ouma, class Euclid. Kokishi is a character from the video game Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony. He is described as Komoeda's less relevant younger brother. His title is Ultimate Supreme Leader. His backstory is not really explored in canon, but you know, that doesn't stop the fandom. Phantom Kokishi is portrayed as having been bullied, abused by his parents, or otherwise mistreated in the past. Among his many archetypes we have Clown, Chaos Lord, Pale Twink, and Mysterious. Yunko Enoshima, class Keter. Yunko is the primary antagonist of the Danganronpa series and has appeared in some form in every installment. She's introduced as one of the students trapped in the killing game, but is later revealed to be the mastermind. Through the series, with the exception of V3, she has an antagonistic role, and is known to be the orchestrator of the world falling into despair. She's a tall villain, so of course she's considered a sexy woman. Her archetypes are dominating, tongue imagery, and duality amongst others. Loki, class Keter. Loki is the god of mischief from the Marvel Comics and Marvel Cinematic Universe, taken from Norse mythology. He's played by Tom Hiddleston in most MCU movies and the Disney Plus series Loki. He's considered one of the prototype sexy men. He's the adopted brother of Thor in the MCU and is, according to the wiki, not my word, practically the embodiment of angst. He's also around 1,000 years old. Comic book version Loki is canonly gender fluid, while the MCU one is, I don't even know, maybe 2. Really doubt it in my opinion. Loki is one of the most popular MCU characters in Tumblr and Twitter and has had a strong fandom for years. Some of his archetypes are Chaos Lord, Pale Twink, and gay/questionable LGBT rep. Junkrat, class Keter. Junkrat is a hero in the video game Overwatch. He's an Australian demolitionist expert and is an unhinged, blunt, shirtless man. Overwatch is a very popular game and almost every character obtained the thirst of the people. Junkrat is considered a sexy man since he was very popular in Tumblr, but not as conventionally attractive like other characters. He's pale, skinny, shirtless, and has an unconventional personality. Phantom Junkrat can be a little different though, often depicted being cleaner and more attractive with the bald spots filled in and his eyes less wild and has a somewhat calmer personality. He's also drawn sometimes with sharp teeth more than canon, and you know sharp teeth, they mean extremely horny on the internet. Controversially, he's often shipped with Roadhog, someone who is nearly twice his age even though they're both adults. We have archetypes like feral scientist, unkept man, clown, twisted freaking psychopath, and peltwink. Doc Ock, class Euclid. Dr. Olivia Octavius is the antagonist of the animated film Into the Spider-Verse, a film that focuses on the idea of multiple universes crossing over. In the universe the film takes place, she's the equivalent of Otto Octavius, classic Spider-Man's Dr. Octopus. A lot of the conversation about her these days is about how they turned Dr. Octopus into a MILF. She appears to be a normal civilian, a speaker in an educational video being watched by Miles Morales' class. Later, we find out she has some involvement with the Kingpin. It isn't until she encounters Peter B. Parker in her lab that her name is revealed and is since shown as one of the antagonists in the movie. Her sexy woman archetypes include mad scientist, MILF, and uniform. Lapis Lazuli. Lapis is a character from the show Steven Universe and a member of the Crystal Gems. Before incarceration, she was like most of her former homeworld peers, having no qualms over terraforming planets and was openly dismissive of the callouts of non-gem life. That was before she met Steven. After being trapped for over 6,000 years, she deeply changed. She was constantly being used by others, which made her distrustful, furious, and unable to let things go. Lapis eventually opens up to Steven for showing kindness toward her and eventually warms up, showing that she's starting to forgive and be friendlier. Peridot. Peridot is also not in either of the Sexypedias, but she's also a character from Steven Universe and a crystal gem. Initially, she appears to be calculating, ruthless, and loyal, showing in her readiness to kill Steven and the other crystal gems when asked to by a higher authority. A lot of stuff seems to happen. I've only watched a few episodes of Steven Universe ages ago, so it's a little harder for me to explain these events properly. Eventually, though, she reforms into her natural self with no limb enhancers, and becomes very juvenile and paranoid. Once confronted by Steven, she becomes much more relaxed and cooperative. There's so much info about her, I just can't get to it, and since she's not in the Sexypedia, it's hard to condense exactly why she's in this chart, but she looks to be a very popular character. Spy, class Euclid. Spy is a character from the video game Team Fortress 2. A suave, mysterious French espionage agent with a penchant for backstabbing, he's a mercenary under the employ of the massive Manco. He's generally aloof and serious, but has sillier moments as well. A fun fact is that spy Sexyman Iceberg was acknowledged in the comics during a gag where the heavy sister expects to meet a sexy version of him in Sniper, but are instead greeted with Scout, Soldier, and Pyro. Among his archetypes we have Dilf, distinctive voice, and knife murderer. Sidon, class Euclid. My personal favorite sexy man, Prince Sidon, is somewhat of an anomaly. He's a character from The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. He displays none of the typical sexy man traits whatsoever. Large and beefy, a fairly normal and optimistic person, no particular sense of mystery around him. Not angsty or manipulative, he's described as the antithesis of a typical sexy man. He is a sexy man though. Tumblr was super thirsty about him. According to the wiki, the main reason Sidon was popular was because they wanted to gay himbo fishman ship him with Link, which fair, that's true. People also liked his I believe in you attitude, which gets played a lot in fanfiction. His archetypes are monster feature / non-human, Ensemble Dark Horse, and John Longt. Rivaldi, class Euclid. Rivaldi is a recurring character in the Legend of Zelda series, appearing as a major character in Breath of the Wild, and a playable character in Hyrule Warriors. He's sardonic and smug, especially around Link. He's the Rito champion of Hyrule, with impeccable archery skills and his own ability called Rivaldi's Gale. As the champion, he is the pilot of the band beast Magneto. He's arrogant and boastful about his ability, unwilling to admit defeat when he's bested by an opponent. His archetypes include angst, dominating, and gay. Shigo, class Catter. Shigo is one of the main antagonists of the animated series Kim Possible. One of the most well-known and popular characters in the franchise, she's infamous on the internet for causing many gay awakenings, which made her one of the premier Tumblr sexy women. Her usual role is as the muscle of Dr. Draken, serving as his main way to combat Kim Possible. On one episode, she turned good and the fandom has to run with that. She was known as a school teacher called Miss Go. Her archetypes include glowing neon, intelligence, and duality. Dimitrescu. And I'm assuming they mean Countess Alcina Dimitrescu since she's in neither of the wikis, probably because she's a super recent character. I'm sorry if I can pronounce her name, okay? Lady Dimitrescu is one of the main villains in the video game Resident Evil Village. She's a super tall, pale mutant human aristocrat, so I think we know why she's considered a sexy woman. From the 1950s until her death in 2021, she maintained pseudo-feudal rule over the peasantry near Castle Dimitrescu. She was feared over local allegations of mass murder and cannibalism. They were right. The internet was super thirsty for this tall vampire lady since the trailer for the game dropped, causing many to say they would gladly let her step all over them. Vaggie, class neutralized. V is a character from the web series Has Been Hotel. She is notable for being the only character who has the tropes, the hypothetical fandom, and yet no one really seems to care about her. V is a Salvatore demon who manages the hotel and attempts to help Charlie, her girlfriend. She dislikes Angel Dolls and Alistair having a temper towards them since she feels like they're gonna jeopardize the hotel. She's also skilled in combat and weapons and is the most sensible character in the show. Her archetypes include eye imagery, white hair, and women-loving women. Miss Pauling, class Euclid. Miss Pauling is an NPC in the game Team Fortress 2, but hit sexy woman status when the comics started coming out. She's the right-hand woman for the administrator, the woman running both the red and blue companies for the Mann brothers. One of the comic writers has confirmed her as a lesbian. She's nonchalant about murder, intelligent, but there's not a lot known about her past. Her archetypes include girl boss, purple, and technically an antagonist. Sherlock. Class Catter. I'm gonna refer here to BBC's Sherlock Holmes because he's the granddaddy of Tumblr Sexyman. The Sexypedia page for him is so funny because even though he was a very popular character, nobody really bothered to fill in information about him. Most of the info is just comparing Super Hulock to Twitter K-pop stans and flower grounds. He's described in the show as a high-functioning sociopath, and he just wants to be a sociopath because he thinks it makes him special. He wears long black coat, is played by Benedict Cumberbatch, and is supposed to be extremely intelligent. Except his intelligence does not cover more mundane things and things he sees as useless knowledge, like knowing the solar system, for example. There's also the whole John Long conspiracy, which I'm not even gonna touch on, but I'm pretty sure everyone has watched Sarah's video on it. But I'm guessing by now you've connected that the John Locke archetypes comes from this. His tropes include pale twink / white / British / distinctive voice, long coat / well dressed, and angst. Anna, class Catter. Anna is the title character and protagonist of the animated web series Edda. She's popular for her unique design and eccentric emotional state. Her sexy woman status is due to her popularity and the sheer appeal of her character, most likely due to old internet aesthetics. She's a humanoid character living in a surreal virtual realm based on internet aesthetics and classic artwork. She is based on the Pablo Picasso painting Girl Before a Mirror. Anna's most distinctive trait is her different forms, which fluctuate based on her mood. There's a default peppy state, a sad pessimistic state, a drunk state, and many others. Another cool thing about her character is that she's played by multiple voice actors. She's also probably the closest thing we're gonna get to the Onceler on a much lower scale, since her moves are sometimes drawn as separate individual and anasonas are a very prominent thing. Anasonas are kinda canon though, because apparently Anna is a species or a line of disposable artificial creatures. Some of her archetypes include glitching, retro, and eye imagery. Catra, class Catter. Catra is one of the main antagonists in the recent reboot of the animated series She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. She's first introduced as Adora's best friend in the Horde, but after Adora defects, Catra doesn't, and takes it very personally. She eventually gets a redemption arc and becomes one of the good guys. She's a prime example of a sexy woman. She's a cat person, has a very abusive relationship with her adoptive mother figure, Shadow Weaver, and is just all around angsty for most of the series in regards to her relationship with Adora. Some of her archetypes are Ontro, dominating, and women-loving women. Roderick Heffley, class Catter. Roderick is a character from the Diary of the Wimpy Kid series. His big moment in Tumblr was with the adaptations of the book into 3 movies. He's played by Devon Bosnick, and unlike the cartoonish appearance in the books, he has an emo haircut and smoky eyeshadow, which some say paved the way for e-boys. He's the older brother of the main character Greg, who he likes to push around. Described as lazy and illiterate, he's the drummer of a band called Loaded Diaper and is portrayed as some punk rocker in the movies. He is considered girl crazy in a respectful manner, which just means he understands that no's means no. Not gonna condemn him for that though. There's also this whole thing where they change his actor in the movies and people went to Twitter to express their disappointment by using the hashtag #NotMyRoderick. Some of his archetypes include theme song Unkept Man and Power of Love. Sasuke. I'm assuming they mean Sasuke Uchiha from Naruto. There's no entry for any Sasuke on the Sexypedia though, so I can't give you a lot of the details on that regard, although I have a feeling that him being pale and broody with a tragic past has something to do with it. He's one of the last surviving members of the Uchiha clan after his brother Itachi slaughtered them. Because of this, Sasuke made it his mission to avenge them by killing Itachi. He develops a close relationship with Naruto but still defects Konoha, looking to become stronger, and joins Orochimaru, one of the series' main villains. I don't want to get into too much detail because it's a lot and most of it is not even worth it, but he eventually gets redemption and marries Sakura out of all people for some reason. Don't know how prevalent that still is, but I remember when I was in middle school and high school, Sasunaru was a huge ship, so I'm guessing that also adds to his inclusion in this chart, as well as the fact that he's very intelligent and strong. Pennywise, Flask Header. Pennywise, also known as It, is an ancient shape-shifting alien who feeds on the fear of humans. He's originally from the Stephen King's book, but it was adapted into a miniseries and 2 movies. Bill Skarsgård's, sorry if I butchered that, portrayal of the clown in the movies is what led him to become a sexy man. I don't think going into the plot of It is relevant since there's no real personality, character development, or emotion to him. He exists to eat and sleep. Still, Tumblr found him very attractive and there was a whole clown lovers war. It boils down to non-clown lovers fans of It not wanting to see explicit posts on the It tag. But clown thirst was big to the point where YouTubers were making videos about it and then gaining millions of views, and Bill Skarsgård getting asked about it during an Entertainment Weekly interview. Among his tropes we have clown, dilf, eldritch, and tongue imagery. And that is the last of the sexy people for today. We are 2 tiers into the iceberg and wow, so much knowledge that is useful to nobody. I actually did have fun doing most of this research and found some cool artists as well, and like some shows I kinda actually wanna watch that I've never watched or never finished watching. Oh yeah, any fan art you saw in this video, there's a link to whoever made it on the pinned comment, by the way. So yeah, I'll continue the rest of this in the next video. Not sure when that will be since the last 4 tiers are also pretty thick, and this one took quite a bit to research and write out. If you didn't see your favorite sexy person on this video, they might be in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it, and if you're new, make sure you subscribe. I can't even tell you what I do videos on these days because I don't even know. But some things are mostly art and internet related, so hang out with us if you want. I also stream on Twitch, not true, if you want to see the speed paints done in real life. That's where you should go, and sometimes I play video games too. If you have any suggestions for topics, you can leave them here or on any social media I have on the description, so be sure to check those out for that and updates about videos and art stuff. Thank you for watching. Special thanks to my patrons who somehow stick around even with the lack of content these past few months. And yeah, see you next time. Have a good day, good night, and get fine. Bye.